As the city and franchise are looking to the past to celebrate 75 years and 14 Grey Cups, the current team only has its eyes on the future and looking to turn things around and get back to the winning ways this team and city expect. Plenty of changes giving the city hope, most notably with the new face behind center. Elks Riders, it's the kickoff to the 75th season of the Double E, and it begins this afternoon down at Commonwealth Stadium. But first, it's the Green and Gold Kickoff Show live here on Edmonton Sports Talk, as well as live at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge on Fort Road, where every day is game day. This is exciting. The Green and Gold, June 11th, 2023. Elks took on the Riders. I did the pre- and post-game show live on TSN 1260. Then there wasn't another show again because 1260 went away, and the Green and Gold kickoff and post-game show, they did not resume for the 2023 season, but now it lives once again on Edmonton Sports Talk for the 2024 season. Iwanyk and Jay Milne with you here. Super excited to bring back the Green and Gold kickoff and post-game shows here on Edmonton Sports Talk. As we're launching Edmonton Sports Talk, it's without question we would be talking Elks before and after every single game with the Green and Gold kickoff show. So excited to do it. Had a great time last year at Commonwealth Stadium. Had a great time getting down to the games and enjoying the games as a fan again in the seats at Commonwealth Stadiums. Had a great time being at the tailgate of all of those games. But there's nothing like talking about the Elks before and after every single game. Throughout the years, Dustin Nilsson has been on this show. Then it was Lieutenant Eric, then it was Hernan Salas, then it was Jeff Walker, and now we welcome in Jay Milne as the new co-host of the Green and Gold Kickoff Show. Jay, welcome. It's great having you here. Also, the only one with actual real football experience.
Well, yeah. Yeah, thanks, Matt. It's honestly like a dream coming true, being here, doing this, maybe not with you in my dreams, but you get the point. This is something that I could have never imagined happening in my wildest dreams. So thank you for considering me for this. I hope I don't screw up too bad. That being said, I probably will. But I guess, you know.
I've done it many times over the years, so you're all good.
Okay. Then we're good. But, for those who don't know me from some appearances on Edmonton Sports Talk, my name is Jason Milne. I played football my whole life. I played since I was 8 years old out in the Sherwood Park Mariner Football Association for the white team. That's what they called it back then. And then I played out at Bev Facey in high school. Then I carried on to the Edmonton Wildcats for a couple seasons. And then I finished off playing with the Bears back when they were relevant. Now they are again. So back when I was, 02 to 07. That's a little bit about me and wondering why I'm making these takes. I do have a little bit of football knowledge, more than this guy for sure.
Yeah.
So at least we have
experience.
somebody.
Football experience. Let's not go knowledge. Let's not get carried away just yet.
No, let's not get
carried away just yet.
Let's call a spade
We'll find
a spade,
it out,
brother.
I went to try out for high school football, got rocked, then didn't show up for another game or practice after that. That's my football time. My brother won't let me forget that one. But it's good to have you on board, and it's going to be fun watching someone who has been in film rooms, has been around and watched and we'll see things differently that most of us don't generally see. So very excited to have you on board, Jay. Before we get into everything with the show and really dive into this game like we will every game here on the Green and Gold Kickoff Show, we are live at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, where every day is game day, just off of Fort Road. We will be here before and after every single Edmonton Elks game this season, as we had a wonderful partnership with Century Casino during the NFL season, as Lieutenant Eric was here every Monday and Thursday night. We had a big Super Bowl party here, and it just only seems right to continue that football partnership with Century Casino. And it's a perfect spot also if you want to go to the game, because you come on down here, you take part in their specials, the game day special for the Elks. I don't know if you saw it, by the way. The game day special, cheese and jalapeno smoky. For $14. That's it. 6 o'clock or lager on special for $6, as well as game day drafts of $5. That's our game day special for Elks games every single game throughout the season. This year, they also have their great daily specials. There was the smoked brisket cheesesteak on Thursdays. I don't know if you've looked at throughout the weekends. One of the days is surf and turf. There's a prime rib sandwich. It's absolutely all incredible.
The menu here is great.
Top
the food
notch.
is really good.
So you come down here, you come down to Century Casino, you grab a bite, you can say hi to Jay and myself. The LRT then is right there. It's right next door. You jump on the LRT, you head down to Commonwealth Stadium, you go watch a football game, then you get back on the LRT, come back here, go play some games, have a drink, watch our post-game show. What better way to spend an entire game day for the Edmonton Elks?
I couldn't see a better way of doing that myself, Matty. I think you nailed it there.
It's the way to do it. So come join us. Most games, I think we might still actually stick around for home games. Like today, we are going to head down to watch the game ourselves. But then on away games, we definitely will be here the entire time. So you could also watch the game with us here at Century Casino. So
it's buzzing in here, hey?
It's buzzing. What's the Belmont? You told me about that. I forgot it was
Belmont.
the Belmont. And so people are ready to go for the Belmont. It's going to get busy here later as well because 6 o'clock, obviously, we got Edmonton Oilers, Game 1, Florida Panthers.
What do you mean? What's happening?
The game?
Oh, the Oilers, right.
Yeah, they could come watch
Slipped my
on
mind.
this wall of TVs that's behind us. They have Oiler Daily Special, too, for later tonight, so you're going to want to come get a spot for that. There's just so much going on. We got the cool bet lines. We've got an EST parlay for the game. It's plus 950, I think, which is a McDavid goal, a Bouchard, Draisaitl a point. Oilers win in over 5.5 goals. We've got a series parlay. That's all up at Cool Bet. On the show today, we will get to our Cool Bet lines. But now let's actually get into this game, and let's start with the starting lineup for your Edmonton Elks. I didn't have this fully prepared, so we aren't on the screen right now, Jay. I don't have the shot with that, but we got the depth chart up for people to read.
That's fine.
Starting quarterback for your Edmonton Elks, it is McLeod Bethel Thompson. The men protecting him from left to right, it's Ivy, Foucault, Cordy, Jack Cardilla, and Stewart. The receiving core, it's Lewis, Gittins Jr., Flowers, Mayala, and Mitchell. Kevin Brown is the running back. Green is the fullback. When you go to the defensive line, a lot of changes over there. McKnight, Kemdiche, Curtis, and Brown are the D-line linebacking core. Anderson, Morgan, and O'Neill. And in the secondary, Gray, Bratton, Jackson, Bynum, and Lewis. Boris Beatty will kick. Julian will punt. And Javon Leake, he will be the kick returner, punt returner for the Elks this season. With that, let's get to our injury report. And Jay, what do we got for the Edmonton Elks as they come into this game? And they aren't... Look, you go through training camp, there'll always be nicks and bruises. A couple of big ones, though, going into this game.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about it here. Luchez Purifoy was sick earlier in the week, did not practice. He was listed as available as the depth charts and the final injury report was released yesterday, but he is not playing today. So that's a big sting because that's a big part of that defense. That's a leader on that defense. I mean, we interviewed him at the Elks Fan Day, and that's a big loss. So that's one. A couple that are on the one-game injury list. You know, you got Brett Boyko on O-line, Joe Jackson on D-line, and then something we were talking about who's on the 6-game list. Yeah. And to mention on the 6-game list is also Jake Taylor with a wrist injury. That's a depth special teams player that they will be missing. But Kyron Moore, wide
big
receiver
loss
for the Double E, made a reception at practice this week, was taken off the field, and, 6 games, hopefully it's not longer than that, but, from what we've heard, this may be something that is a little bit more serious than just a 6 game. So that's that is your injury report for the Elks.
On the show today, we will get to our 3 stories of the game. I know Big Uke texted into the nasty chat asking, or not in the nasty, in the Paris Jewelers inbox, 780-218-9999, what's one storyline we're looking at this game? Well, every day, every game, we have our 3 storylines that we'll look at going into the game. We will do a quick visitors report as we look at the Saskatchewan Roughriders. We will look at our prop of the game via Cool Bet for this one. We'll get to our keys to an Edmonton Elks victory. Jay will give a prediction because I don't do predictions. And We will hear
I don't even want to talk about it.
we'll hear from the head coach and general manager of your Edmonton Elks, Chris Jones, as well. Let's take a look at some of the key players for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Once again, Jay and I won't be on the screen for those watching on YouTube. Trevor Harris, the starting quarterback for the team. If he stays healthy, he is a top receiver or quarterback in this game. They've got a nice receiving core, a couple good Canadians, Schaefer Baker and Emelis. Baines Jr. is someone to watch for as well in the receiving core. AJ Olette, the big running back signing that they've brought in from the Toronto Argonauts. And on the O-line from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Jamarcus Hardrick, now with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He's in the right tackle spot. When you look defensively, Carney, Micah Johnson, Lanier on the D-line. That is a scary defensive line, in my opinion. And then they lose Larry Dean. He spent 1 year with the Elks, but a long-time linebacker for the Riders. Have had to deal without him for the last couple of years due to Achilles injuries. He retired. He's in the front office. Jameer Thurman is going to be the quarterback of the defense. He'll be in the middle linebacker spot, so someone to pay attention for tonight or this afternoon, as the Edmonton Elks will be taking on the Saskatchewan Roughriders. If you're not making it down to Commonwealth Stadium to watch the game in person, you can watch it on TSN either, or come down here to Century Casino and watch it here. And if you're watching it on TSN, a couple of our boys will be on the broadcast.
Couple of the dudes, couple fellas.
That's Edmonton Sports Talk right there. Dustin Nielsen on the call with Glenn Suter and Tom Gazzola roaming the sidelines. With him roaming the sidelines, a reminder coming up 4:30 today here on Edmonton Sports Talk, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tune in iHeartRadio as well as on YouTube. We will have the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show live at Hudson Bourbon Street as YouTube Trev, Sean Bell, Zach to come, Matt Cassin. They'll get you set for the game. Tommy will be there for the post-game show, but they'll have you covered for the pregame show. With that, we will not be on the audio stream for the post-game show once this game comes to a close. We will be live just on YouTube as the pregame show will already be underway. Oh, we're getting through a lot right now. Let's quickly look at the weather for today's game as well. All week, it looked beautiful. It was 25. It was sunny on the Saturday, and then it turned. I want to blame Josh Clausen of CTV, but I can't because I love Josh too much. Right now, 9 degrees in Edmonton. Wind gusts up to 28. It's a northerly wind from 14 kilometers an hour. A high of 10. Chance of showers throughout the game at moments of the game, but it's not going to be a consistent rain throughout. So it doesn't feel. I don't feel like the rain will be a factor in this one, but those wind gusts could potentially be a factor in this one, and just not as warm as we would like for a home opener. Let's now jump into our 3 storylines of this game. Your thoughts? Actually, before we do that, we got to do our question of the day. I forgot to get to that. Your thoughts always welcome. Paris Jewelers inbox 780-218-9999, or you could jump into the nasty chat. The question of the day: how will the Elks finish the 2024 regular season? Twitter, you only allowed 4 options, so I have top 2 in the West, third in the West, a crossover spot, or missing the playoffs. Jay, what would you go with?
Well, considering that they only had 4 wins last year, right? Now, with having the difference of having a McLeod Bethel Thompson come into the fold, I think that's another 4 wins right there. So I had the double E right around that 8-9 win mark. So that, I think, given the strength of the Western division, it would be third. They'd be fighting for third. Which would obviously get them into a playoff spot, but that's where I think they're going to end up is in that third spot in the West. Possibly they may. It depends on how the West shapes up, but I think third or fourth is quite reasonable and expectable for the double E. What are your thoughts?
Look, I think they should be a better football team. They should be better than 4 wins. So I look at this team. Well, that's the thing. So. I would have put, if I had to put a range for this season, I would say it's about 8 to 10 wins. That would be the range I would put it at.
Over 6.5 wins?
Over 6.5 wins, which was the cool bet line to start this season. So with that, what does 8 to 10 get you? I do like the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I think they will be the third in the West. I like the Bombers. I like the BC Lions. We'll see about the Bombers, though.
Well, I think that's a lot of rust. Game is huge in terms of standings at the end of the year.
Well, it's the tiebreaker will come into play eventually. So I think, though, if I'm having the Riders third, I'm looking at a crossover spot, potentially. And I don't like the East. I don't like what we've seen from the East. I'm very concerned with what's going to happen with Toronto. Ottawa, Hamilton, not sold on those 2 franchises.
But whether it's third or
I think it's there. I think fourth would be there, which would be a crossover.
But either way, you still have the Elks making the playoffs.
It would be playoffs at that point then.
Okay.
It better be. Better be. And we'll
Right.
get to that right now. So let's get into our 3 storylines of this game. And what we do every year on the first game, we look at the 3 facets of the game. You need to win 2 out of the 3 to win a football game, they say.
Absolutely.
Offense, defense, special teams. We're going to start with the offense. There's been a lot made of the offense and what Chris Jones did this past off season. If I had a post-game show at the end of last year and I was looking ahead to this season, what would have I said? Well, Trey Ford's the starting quarterback. How are they going to build an offense around him? How are they going to improve the offensive line? What else could they add to this team? And what happens? They go bring in McLeod Bethel-Thompson, which means Trey Ford isn't the starting quarterback of this team. They trade away Jake Seresna to bring Curly Gittens Jr. They cut Steven Dunbar. They don't really add any CFL experience on the offensive line. Obviously, you're bringing in guys throughout camp and through the offseason, but they don't go bring in the Hardrick like the Saskatchewan Roughriders did. Jay, what do you make of the offense that Chris Jones built for the Elks going into this and where they are as we head into game 1?
Well, I think he built this offense on purpose, with purpose as well, because the defense of the Elks, which we'll get to here in a minute, is not their strong suit. Of the 3 facets of the game, I would say it's one of their weakest, or the weakest. So Chris Jones knows that in order to stay competitive in these games, they're going to have to air it out. They're going to have to run the ball well. They're going to have to put up points. They're not going to win defensive slugfest. So I think with adding McLeod Bethel-Thompson, obviously Eugene Lewis is expected to be the top target. Kevin Brown is back, okay? He rushed for over 1,100 yards a season ago. So if this offense can get going, and you're right, the question mark lies at the offensive line position, specifically the tackles. I think this O-line is strong. It's at its strongest in the middle, and as it extends out further, it gets weaker, which is not great. It's not a great situation to be in, but today will be a real good, measure of how that offensive line stacks up.
Yeah, I don't like the makeup of this offense that Chris Jones built. It was on purpose, and to me, I don't want to go into a first game being all frustrated and upset, but he did it poorly. He was a bad general manager. And I'm not even going to talk about Trey Ford as a starting quarterback. Whether he's better than McLeod Bethel-Thompson or not. Because, look, right now McLeod Bethel-Thompson is the better quarterback. I don't like how he went out building this roster because I feel like he didn't maximize what he could have done. McLeod Bethel-Thompson's $400,000. They needed to improve the offensive line. Trey Ford, this team's won 5 football games over the last 2 years. Trey Ford's been the starting quarterback in 5 of them. So he could potentially go win you football games. I would have saved the $400,000 on McLeod Bethel-Thompson. I would have had to use some of that on a veteran quarterback, because Trey Ford absolutely needs a veteran quarterback to learn from. But I would have brought in an offensive lineman. And then also what I wouldn't have had to do if I was Chris Jones, if I started Trey Ford and I went added on the offensive line, is I wouldn't have to bring in Curly Gittens Jr. because he knows McLeod Bethel-Thompson. Curly Gittens Jr., he's about $200K. Jake Seresna's about $200K. So I would rather have Jake Seresna on my defensive line than bringing in Curly Gittens Jr. when Herjim Ayala has been excellent through camp. They have Gavin Cobb. And also what we learned last year is they didn't need more receivers. They had Eugene Lewis. They had Dylan Mitchell. They had Kyron Moore. Unfortunately, right now with the injury, this changes that a little bit. And they had Steven Dunbar. They had to cut Steven Dunbar because they had too many receivers. But instead, then they bring in Curly Gittens Jr. and they lose Jake Seresna. So you lose one of TSN's top 50. I think he was top 15 on that list, Jake Seresna. So you lose a top defensive lineman. You don't improve your offensive line. And you bring in McLeod Bethel-Thompson, more expensive quarterback, where I don't feel the ceiling. If we were saying that the ceiling was 12, 13 wins this year, I could then be more like, okay, this is why you don't go with Trey Ford. That's not the case. We're talking about, what, a 2-3 win swing at most? And to me, that's where I don't like what Chris Jones has done this offseason, because he's focused too much on saving his job and winning this season and not long-term the growth of this offense, potentially developing Trey Ford, but also maximizing his cap space to build a better offense. Most notably to me, not improving the offensive line.
He is developing Trey Ford and doing it the right way. Pat Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith for a year and a half before he even started a game. You cannot have a player come in that is fresh and new and just take over an offense. He's not experienced enough. So That's not right. And of course he's fighting for his job. Of course he's trying to save his job. What is he supposed to do? So I think the changes that he made were at positions that we struggled with and struggled at. I mean, you talk about losing Serezna on the O-line. Well, look what they brought in, the former number 1 overall NFL draft pick and Robert Nkemdiche. I mean, if that works out as a trade-off, then that's a win, right? So I guess it really just depends on how this all shakes out.
Well, yes, but like the concern I'm going to have right off the bat is the fact that they've gone with the same offensive line for a couple years in a row, and they didn't go improve it. And if that doesn't work right off the bat, you're
Kevin
not
Brown
fixing
rushed for
your offensive
1,100 yards.
Oh, do you know
That's
when?
all because of the O-line.
Do you know when that O-line opened up those holes for Kevin Brown and he started rushing for those yards?
Let me guess. It has something to do with Trey Ford.
When he was the starting quarterback of this team.
Right.
He was not picking up. If you look at Kevin Brown's numbers last year when 0-9, he wasn't getting those yards. He wasn't getting those holes. All of a sudden, Trey Ford goes into the lineup, and those holes open up. And Kevin Brown's able to run the ball. And look, part of that might be just Jarius Jackson as OC because they came in at the exact same time as well. They moved on from Steve McAdoo. They put in Jarius Jackson.
That's probably a bigger factor in that because they decided to dedicate to get more discipline and run the ball. The start of the season, the opposing defenses could just pin their ears back and go because they were not at all intimidated by the arm of Taylor Cornelius, nor were they intimidated by the offensive scheme that McAdoo had worked with. So changing that up, Jarius Jackson comes in, Kevin Brown goes off. All the Double E fans are saying, where did this guy come from? Well, he was there all year. He just wasn't used properly. So, saying that, now you've improved your quarterback. You've got a pocket passer that can sit back there and sling it. You've brought in a couple other key offensive weapons. I mean, I don't see how...
But if McLeod Bethel-Thompson's not protected, there's nothing this offense can do. You give me a bad offensive line, I don't care what quarterback you put behind them. They're not going to accomplish anything.
Well, to be determined, I guess.
And that's where, but at the very least, with Trey Ford, he could just go run.
Yeah,
and
not
you just go run if the offensive line's not doing well.
He runs even when the offensive line's doing well. He's not a pocket passer.
I don't. Well, but he has to learn that, and the only way you can learn that is by playing football games.
No,
it's by
studying
starting.
McLeod Bethel-Thompson.
Even as you go, Patrick Mahomes, 1.5 years behind Alex Smith. Trey Ford's been a backup for 2 years.
To who?
They believed in Taylor Cornelius.
That didn't work out.
And here's the thing, Chris Jones.
The
reason Chris Jones is still the head coach of this team is because of Trey Ford. Because he won football games last year and now moved away from Trey Ford. And, look, I will say this. McLeod Bethel-Thompson, he has a great attitude of wanting to teach Trey Ford. Love hearing that from him, and we heard that at Fan Day. Trey Ford looks like he's really trying to learn from McLeod Bethel-Thompson. But I don't think this organization, I don't think Chris Jones trusts Trey Ford and have any belief in Trey Ford look, a package for Trey Ford would be wonderful. I don't think they have one for him. Because I don't think this coaching staff and management like Trey Ford. And we're at a position where he's going to walk next year. And this team, worst case, they might not have a quarterback next year. All because we're allowing Chris Jones to fight for his job here. And look, I'll relate this to the Oilers. It's game day for game 1 of the Stanley Cup. Last time I saw a general manager fight for their job, Peter Chiarelli traded for Alex Petrovic and Brandon Manning on a trade no one was expecting and no one thought was good at the time. I could also flip this and go even further that I was on 12-16 and a number of Oiler fans were saying, Stuart Skinner, maybe you should play a few more games with him, Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith, to see what you have. Because then you could evaluate what you're going to do with goaltending for the next year, because maybe it's going to be Stuart Skinner. And what did they do? He had a shutout against the Blues. They sent him to the minors, never called him up. Then they signed Jack Campbell. And they had Stuart Skinner play behind Jack Campbell. But maybe they didn't need to sign Jack Campbell if they had given Stuart Skinner the job, if they had played Stuart Skinner. You needed to give Trey Ford a chance. And because I'll say this, I think more Elks fans out there would live with a 6-7 win season this year with Trey Ford to know whether he could be the guy or maybe show that he's not the guy, as opposed to a 8-9 win season, make the playoffs, lose, and Trey Ford walks and McLeod Bethel-Thompson, he's only going to be here for 1 more year?
It's funny because as I'm looking at your water glass, it looks like it's more full than empty, but that is the most pessimistic take I've heard in my life. Get that crap out of here and just focus on what's in front. what is in front of us is that McLeod Bethel Thompson is the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
They have a running game.
Yeah.
They have a defense.
Yeah.
I just don't know where this pessimistic Matthew Iwanyk comes from.
Because and I don't want to rip the quarterback too much. I want McLeod Bethel Thompson to do well. I want to see him do well. I was never sold with him in Toronto as this great quarterback.
But you're assuming that if the Elks went with Trey Ford this year, they could stumble their way to 6 or 7 wins. That's a big assumption.
No, he won 4 last year in half a season. He was up 22-0 against the Bombers. They let that slip away. They had an awful end to the first half against the Montreal Alouettes. It was a wild swing where they should have went in with that lead. Could have won that football game. But you give me a second half of the season. So he won 4 last year. What's to say he can't win 2 or 3 more in another half of the season?
Because the book's out on him. It's not hard to stop him because he runs around.
McLeod Bethel Thompson is a guy that throws interceptions.
You cannot run an offense with, well, certainly not Jarius Jackson's offense like he wants to run it with a quarterback that's running around like that.
He was a 500 quarterback last year, and you never know what he could do because now we won't see. And we could go a year from now where McLeod Bethel Thompson might not actually be the guy. And because he was also quarterback out east. And I will. There was 3 times in his career he's been named the starting quarterback, and in that season was benched. Was taken out of that job for the next week? 3 times in his career. This guy doesn't have a track record of 4, 5, 6 straight consecutive solid seasons in Canadian football. If you look at it, he's got 2 excellent seasons. I will give him that. He led his team to a Grey Cup game. He didn't win that Grey Cup, but he led them to that game. He's a fine quarterback. But I would rather see what this team has with Trey Ford because, as Eugene Lewis said on Fan Day, this guy's going to be special one day in this league. And I don't want to be watching Trey Ford being special for another team in this league. I wanted to see it with the Edmonton Elks. So that's what scares me. We've been disagreeing on this since McLeod Bethel Thompson
since its inception, actually. Yes. And we continue to disagree.
I hope you're right. I hope my pessimism doesn't come to fruition.
Hope I'm right too.
I hope we're not talking about a 1-3, 0-4 start to the season come the bye week.
Because if I'm wrong, we're screwed.
Well, and I don't think Chris Jones will be quick to go to Trey Ford as well. This is the Green and Gold Kickoff Show. Iwanyk and Jay Milne live at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge just off Ford Road, where every day is game day here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tune in iHeartRadio, as well as those watching on YouTube. Jay's probably in heaven that he gets to watch these horses right now.
I just love the action.
It's the best.
All these guys here
it's
just
so
giving
much fun to. I forgot it was Belmont. I would have done a little preparation to put some money down if I remembered that. Iwanyk, Jay Milne, we're into the 3 stories of this game. Elks taking on the Riders down at Commonwealth Stadium. Storyline number 2, defensively, through 2 years with Chris Jones, we haven't seen a Chris Jones defense. This guy, historically, wherever he's been, has been incredible with his defenses. We saw it here in Edmonton in 14-15. Odell Wills was talking about it to us earlier this week on the Hangout on Monday. In Montreal, in Toronto, in Saskatchewan, wherever he's gone, his defenses have been incredible, but through 2 seasons, they have not been good. Last year, shut out twice. They give up yards. They give up points. What are you expecting out of this defense this year based on what you see?
Well, I certainly hope we see a Chris Jones defense, one that he has designed, handpicked, and brought in guys that, yes, might not be names that you've heard of now, but as Odell Willis on the Hangout here on Monday stated, when he was there in 2015, he brought in guys like Willie Jefferson. Who was some other names there?
That defense of Patrick Watkins. But now, okay, here's the thing, though. Ed Hervey was the GM of that team, not Chris Jones.
True.
But
you have to figure, though, that Chris Jones had his hands on that.
Sewell, John Ojo, Pat Watkins, Otha Foster, Dion Lacey. Would have he been there? Dexter McCoyle.
Dexter McCoyle, that's who I was thinking.
J.C. Sherritt.
But people that maybe necessarily
it was Dion
unheard
Lacey,
of,
I think.
Right? Well, that's what he's done here. And he's got some people that, you got Elliott Brown and Romeo McKnight on the hot corner, which is the outside of the defensive line. Those are the guys responsible for putting pressure on the quarterback. Be interested to see how they do today and this season. And obviously, we alluded to it earlier, former first-round NFL draft pick, Robert Kondiche, comes in. Certified... Is an interesting character.
He's a character.
He's a character.
That's what we'll say. He's a character.
I hope he's a character on the field, too, because if he can disrupt, and he's in the inside of that defense, so he's the guy that moves and shakes and makes life living hell for the opposing offensive line. So if he can come in and do that, because look, last year, They were a league worst, 136.6 yards per game rushing. That cannot happen. If that happens, none of what we just talked about with Trey Ford, McLeod, Bethel Thompson, that, none of it matters. Because if you can't stop the run, your season's over. So I am really interested in seeing how that defensive front seven. I think that's if you look at any group on the entire in the entire team, the defensive front seven is the one that has the most eyes on it because there's not a lot of new names and unproven and very necessary.
Yeah. It's fascinating. The secondary guy's not looking at the secondary though.
What's that?
The secondary guy's not looking at the secondary. That's interesting.
No, secondary's good. We got it. Don't worry about us.
Well, I am intrigued by the secondary because a lot of young players last year.
Yeah.
But can they take that step forward? Can they develop?
Well,
and there's some talent there.
Yes.
There was flashes.
Yes.
The problem I have right now, just going back to Trey Ford, is there was flashes, and they get the chance to prove themselves, while Trey Ford doesn't get his chance to prove himself. But we're on to the defense right now.
We're on to the defense.
So I'm intrigued to see how they step up. And seeing, like, when it comes to Lewis and it comes to Gray and, like, Bratton, guys from last year that weren't on the team the years prior, can they take that step forward and be better? A lot of changes on that front seven, you're right. Look, Chris Jones, if there's one thing he's never gotten right, it is picking a quarterback. But if there's one spot that he knows, it's defense. It's defense,
Absolutely.
it's defense, it's defense. You've got, last year Jake Serezna, AC Liner run the defensive line. They're gone. I'm not happy about Jake Serezna. But if there's one spot I really shouldn't be questioning Chris Jones, it's defense. And maybe when it comes to the cap, everything I said about Trey Ford, maybe when it comes to the flip side is he saved money to get other players because he's bringing in guys on a cheaper deal than a Jake Serezna because he knows these defenses.
Yes.
He will go find these guys and put them in. I'd have to go look at like an Anthony Lanier when he came into the league because I wouldn't be shocked if Chris Jones found him.
Right.
That's Chris. This is a spot Chris Jones knows his specialties. We haven't seen that defense yet. That physical, aggressive playmaking defense. They need that. That's also why you have Chris Jones here. The thing is, though, he's also not the defensive coordinator this year.
That's right.
He's got Jason Shivers, who was with him here in Edmonton back in 14-15. Jason Shivers, DC for the last few years.
And I'm excited about that. That is nice.
He knows what Chris Jones wants out of defense,
yes,
which is great. And by all accounts, what I'm talking to people, Chris Jones isn't calling the plays. I was worried that is he still just going to call the plays? No, Shivers is going to call the plays. So obviously Chris Jones will have an input every so often, as he should. He's that brilliant at it. But now we can focus on other things, and he's got a guy he trusts who I think should be a head coach in this league. And if the Saskatchewan Roughriders don't bottom out in the second half of last year, and there's a lot of reasons for that, he probably is the head coach of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, or he's a head coach somewhere in this league. And the Elks are taking advantage of that by having him as a defensive coordinator. That's going to be a good thing, too, for the defense, where just someone else to help Chris Jones. He could focus on the entire team as the head coach of this team, and they have someone who's a strong defensive coordinator, but also knows the Chris Jones style of defense. As a defensive guy, what do you like most about a Chris Jones defense?
I like the amount of pressure, blitzing, scheming that they will put on the opposing team's offense with bringing guys in, extra guys into the fold. He loves to blitz. He loves to blitz with purpose, not just sending the house. Like knowing the situation, knowing down and distance, knowing who to bring at what point. That is what a Chris Jones defense is, and that way you're doing it by committee, right? So you're taking a weaker spot on your defense and you're bolstering it up by blitzing. And yes, Norman, the Combine, this is tea. And it is green tea, and it is caffeinated. I made that mistake the other night. Norm must have heard me on the morning show. I wanted to have a tea because my voice was very raspy. So I had a tea at night before we went to bed with my mother-in-law.
Oh, no.
Well, I didn't go to bed with my mother-in-law.
No. I'm thinking ahead to where the story goes.
And we had a green tea. And I thought, okay, great. Piled a bunch of honey in there. Awesome. It was at about 9, so I had to wake up at 4:30 for the morning show. And I couldn't sleep. I could not sleep. I was wide-eyed at midnight, wide-eyed at 1, and here I'm thinking, I'm screwed. What happened? Well, green tea happened. Apparently, it's very, very caffeinated.
Yes, you always have to look at the teas.
That was a tough lesson to learn. But I'm ready for caffeine right now. I mean, we got this excellent game coming up. Then we got something happening tonight. I don't know, some hockey game so many people were telling me about, but I'm excited.
Busy
Need to
day
stay
here
up.
in Edmonton Sports Talk. Busy day. I also like Kelvin in the nasty chat. Maddie and Trey sitting in a tree.
Tell me about it. Yeah,
Look,
you got that right.
Business-wise, they could have thrown Trey Ford jerseys out there, number 2, sold a bunch of them, put him on all sorts of billboards. Even Milt Stiegel said as a backup, Milt thought he should have been in the top 50 of the CFL. That's the thing. So, I'm full Trey Ford fan club. Full Trey Ford fan club, and I'm not going to shy away from that.
Well, he's still on the front page of the CFL website.
They, the CFL.ca, they did an article to start the season, and the image they had was a player from each team. And in the middle was the Elks for some reason also. They had dead middle. I don't know if it was alphabetical. It wouldn't have been alphabetical. I think they're third or something. But it had Trey Ford, which as much as I love Trey Ford, I was telling you guys, like, you can't have the backup quarterback of the team as the face of a franchise. You got to put MBT or Geno Lewis, who, by the way, Geno Lewis saw him at the annual dinner we were at a couple nights ago.
Yes.
Told him I drafted him in my CFL fantasy team, that he's a member of the Sacramento Gold Miners, and he's like, I got you. I was like, yeah, you do.
Okay.
So he's got me.
All right.
Eugene Lewis, he's going to do it for you, City of Edmonton and Elks fans, but he's also going to do it for the fact that he's a gold miner.
True. Yeah, he screams gold miner for sure.
Looking for our 4th title. We lost Kenny Lawler. Not good.
You said there's 3 facets of a football
we got to
game.
get to the 3rd storyline.
And the 3rd facet is, I think, by far the Double E's most improved.
Oh, it's not even
It's not even close.
Not a question.
I mean, you bring in an all-star kick. When's the last time you think fans have seen a kick return go back for a touchdown?
Well, it happened last year. The last game of the season.
Game,
but
right?
no one cared.
But
it was a great return, and everyone was excited, but it came at they're not making the playoffs. Like, it hasn't happened since Kendall Lawrence,
in
basically.
garbage time, essentially,
Yes.
right? But now you have
season.
an all-star kick returner and Javon Leake coming in. That's the best in the business right now. And then you go out and sign kicker Boris Beatty. I mean, right now, the special teams of the Elks are their most improved, and it's not even close. So I'm excited to see. I asked you, when we were waiting to go on, if you think they're going to run one back today, to which half glass empty Matt Iwanyk said, absolutely not. And I wouldn't be surprised if that did happen. I mean, that guy is a game changer. There's a reason that he was one of the highest coveted CFL free agents last year. And I mean, you look at the Elks special teams last year, it was terrible. Almost near the bottom of every category: starting position, kickoff return average, punt average. It was brutal, and that's huge, especially in that field position. They were ranked last in the CFL in average starting field position. That makes a field, which is already quite long, that much longer. And with an offense that was struggling the way it was, you're hopeless. So it's exciting to see that they made these changes, and can't wait to see what Javon Leake can do.
Well, on top of that, look, Dean Faithful made some big kicks last year. He had the game winner in Labor Day rematch. But especially in the early part of the year, they didn't trust him to kick over 40. And you can't have a kicker who you don't trust going over 40. So that bringing in Boris Beatty, that's a big deal. You've said I have nothing really to add on Javon Leake outside of one of the electrifying players on the TSN top 50. He was in the top, I think he was number 22 maybe, or was he in top 20? He was higher than Kevin Brown.
Yeah.
So like the Elks running back situation, the kick returner is higher than the actual starting running back when it comes to that list, but he is that electric.
Well, and he is Brown's backup.
Yeah, no,
on the depth chart.
But the thing is, going for the last, I don't know how many years, the Edmonton Elks immediately, when we talked at start, 3 facets, you need to win 2 to win a football game. They always started -1. They always started with that loss of special teams, and that put all the pressure on the offense and defense. They had to be that good because you couldn't rely on your special teams overall to be there. And look, I don't need Javon Leake to return touchdowns. Don't care fully on that one. It's electrifying. It's a lot of fun.
That average. Get that average up.
It's the field position start.
Yeah.
If your offense only has to travel 60 yards as opposed to 80 yards to get
Huge.
a touchdown.
That's 2 first downs.
Or if you only have to go 25, 30 yards, also because of your kicker, as opposed to 50 yards or whatever, to get into field goal range. That's just points. That's almost like free points. That's what this team has been missing. So they got a kicker who they could trust a little further out. The only concern I have 2 concerns about Boris Beatty. One, career high last year, so there will be a little bit of a drop-off, I think. Also struggles with his extra points. He's been a lot of extra points over his
Right.
career. But that's me nitpicking there a little bit. But you have a kicker you trust. You have a kicker who could kick the deep ball at times. And you have a kick returner who could give you field position. That gives you, as a team, just a better position. And,
That
there's
might
not
be
much.
worth 2 wins this year. I'm not even kidding.
Well, the Montreal game, I said it like at the very last play, it was a missed field goal returned for a touchdown. Well, if Boris Beatty goes up there and kicks that field goal, I think they win that football game maybe. So right there, you go to the Saskatchewan game earlier when they gave up the Rouge in the end zone.
Yes.
Jabon Leak would know what to do in that situation to return it out, so maybe they don't lose that football game. Right there, I could find 2 from last year.
That's
just on
like
special
right
teams.
there, right?
Just
So
on special teams,
It doesn't
right there.
take much. It just, a lot of these were mental mistakes from their special teams last year. And bringing in 2 veteran presences like that, I think will make a huge difference.
We got to get going here on the Green and Gold Kickoff Show, live from Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. Matt Iwanyk and Jay Milne.
Flying a lot,
It's
Wow.
flying a little too quick because our battery's almost dead on our laptop. We're not making it to 155.
Oh my
We're
gosh.
making it to about 150 maybe, hopefully.
Okay.
All of our equipment has gone with the boys for the Oilers tonight. So usually we'd have headsets. Usually we have a lot of stuff.
The
We
Oilers
don't
are
have
the
the
big dog in
full
town.
equipment for everything.
We're
so.
not used to the Oilers playing this late into the
Wasn't
year.
expecting it. Thank God it's the only game for that. Quickly, with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, what do you think we're going to see from the Riders this season?
Well, I mean, obviously their big signing was their prized running back, AJ Ouellette, who comes over from the Argonauts. I would expect to see them pound the ball with him. That's why, I was saying that double E front 7 is going to have a lot of pressure put on them today, with one of the best running backs in the CFL coming right down their throat on a regular basis. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. Trevor Harris, I don't know. I think the prime of Trevor Harris has passed him. So that will be interesting to see how he manages the ball. I honestly think this is a winnable game for the Double E. I really do, if they can contain that run game of the Roughriders.
I really like what the Riders did this offseason. I like Corey Mace. I liked him as a defensive coordinator. You never know exactly what to expect from head coach or defensive coordinator, OC, to head coach. So there is a question mark there, but I think that is a good hire. Trevor Harris, the one thing I like about him is he does have the quick release, but then they also added to the offensive line in Hardrick. And they're going to focus on the run. You don't bring in an AJ Ouellette, you don't bring in a Hardrick if you're not going to then start running, especially to start this season. And what a running back to do that with. AJ Ouellette the last couple of years, he filled in a relief Harris a couple of years ago, and then last year just blew onto the scene. And then defensively, I thought they made some really good moves, including bringing Thurman in from Hamilton, and they got a strong defensive line. And I'm sold on the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Lieutenant Eric, who's a Riders fan, isn't. Oh, your mic. Oh, no, there we go. We lost the mics for a quick second there.
It's okay. You were just talking about the Roughriders.
I think our camera's out right now. Okay, well, look, this is the worst spot for your camera to be in right now.
Oh, I'm picking my nose. I was rubbing my nose. I wasn't picking it.
We'll see if we can quickly fix the camera here quickly. But no, like when it comes to this team, like maybe there's the growing pains of the new head coach, and that's the thing they're going to have to figure out. But I really like this team. I like what they've done, and I do have them third for a reason. So, I like the Saskatchewan. We're not going to have the camera the rest of the show, I think, here.
That's awesome.
So I like the Saskatchewan Roughriders. We'll throw up the depth chart for the Elks here quickly so people can look at that. Let's take a look at our cool bet prop of the game. What are you looking at for tonight's game?
Well, we talked about it earlier, how if this team is going to succeed, it's going to be on the arm of McLeod Bethel Thompson. And they're going to have to put up numbers. They're going to have to put up points. So I'm looking at cool bet right now. The over 1.5 touchdown throws or passing touchdowns for McLeod Bethel Thompson. I'm going to go ahead and hammer that. That is minus 128 on coolbet.com. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm riding with the big horses here. It is Belmont Day. So I'm going to ride with our horse, McLeod Bethel Thompson. You may not like to hear that, but did we get the camera back?
We're on this smaller camera, or the laptop camera there. So we're there.
Lovely. This is the way it goes sometimes.
Okay, quickly, you got a Belmont pick?
No, I will on the. Well, it would be too late by the post game. My wife told me there's 3 grays running in this race,
And you like your grays.
so I might have to bet all of them. I don't know.
My cool bet prop of the game. Look, they bring in McLeod Bethel Thompson's receiver from Toronto for a reason. Curly's Gittins Jr. All week in practice, Curly Gittins Jr. He had been targeted a lot by MBT from what I have heard. Can't get to the practices because busy with the hangouts. But Curly Gittins Jr. minus 105 for over 4.5 receptions.
Love it.
I like. He's going to be targeted. I think you're going to see Curly Gittins Jr. potentially targeted 8-9 times. He is a really good receiver. He will get his catches in. So when I'm looking at what I would pick for tonight's game, or I keep calling it tonight, this afternoon's game, I do like Curly Gittins Jr. over 4.5. We're going to take this laptop right down to the end. We got 6%. We got lots here.
We got lots.
We got
baby.
lots to get into. With that, let's actually hear from the head coach of the Edmonton Elks, Chris Jones, with some comments from earlier this week.
Tell me about this day with the page now turned from training camp and preseason, and now you get ready for a game here and the vibe that you sense out here.
Yeah, I mean, we've still got a lot of work to do. If today's practice is any indication, we've got a long way to go. We got to get better effort out of our defense going to the football. There's a lot of things that we left out there today.
Okay. Tomorrow's another day.
Yeah, tomorrow's another day.
Tell me about going through the cuts. I know you said it's the worst day in football, or of the year in football, and going through that process and just getting behind it.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to get. I mean, it's pro football. I mean, they know what's going in, but it's never fun to have to do. But that's part of our job. And so now we go on, and we've got our football team chosen, and these are the guys that we've elected to have in our room, and look forward to playing a very tough Saskatchewan team.
Go ahead.
It's been focused on